Welcome, everybody, to the second episode of the King and Pocket Aces Fantasy Sports Show. I'm one of your hosts, Pocket Aces, Anthony Aniano, and joining me as he does and how he will each and every week, the King of Fantasy Sports, Mr. Scott Engel. And Scott seems to have brought a furry little friend with him as well. Scott, how you doing today, my friend?
Doing good. It's cold outside, so we got snowy over here, keeping me company. Okay. Hope everybody's doing okay. We got a lot to cover because lots going off season fantasy football, which we're always going to cover for you. Baseball's coming. NBA right now is in full swing. We'll help you with that and also tell you where to get your NASCAR fixes. So lots to do, Anthony.
Yeah, lots to do. Football never ends. Pitchers and catchers are reporting in Major League Baseball. Scott's New York Knicks are outperforming, I think, what most people expected. And like Scott said, a lot of left turns on the way as NASCAR.
See, this week for all you people who like to make fun of NASCAR, we're on a road course. So we're making right turns this week.
There you go. All right.
Well, so I know what you're talking about there.
I apologize. But Scott,
we can dumb down any sport if we want to. You want to see my impression of a hockey game? Oh, almost. Oh, almost. Oh, almost. Oh, almost. You can dumb down anything.
Scott's aggressive today. One thing we do agree on, though, guys, head over to rotoballer.com. It is the place to go for all your fantasy sports needs. Sign up for any premium packages using the promotional code KING to letting you know Scott sent you. That'll save you some money. If you want to tell him Anthony sent you, use the promo code ACES. But, Scott, let's get into now some of the off-season football talk. And one of the big news stories of the last couple of days now is the Pittsburgh Steelers and their quarterback situation with Ben Roethlisberger. An underperforming season, especially as the year went on, a huge salary cap hit coming up next year at over $41 million if he plays. If they cut him, he still counts as about $22 million to the salary cap for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh GM, non-committal on his return. So my question is twofold. Do we actually see the Steelers move on without Ben? And two, is there an upgrade there for him? I mean, this is a playoff team that can continue winning if they do move on without him.
Well, I don't think there's anybody on the roster right now that they could really consider an upgrade. If Ben Roethlisberger isn't going to play quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who is? They're probably going to have to make a deal for one of these quarterbacks. And can they fit any of them under the cap? I don't know that they can do that either. I think it comes out the GM said, well, he's still on the roster. Roethlisberger said, he wants to work something out and he can stay. What's really out there for them if they don't retain Ben Roethlisberger? It's going to be a very dicey situation. Can they draft a quarterback? They're not in range, to draft any of the top quarterbacks in the draft. There's not much maneuverability for the Steelers. Now, you look at what Roethlisberger did last season, fantasy backup quarterback at the beginning of the year, but a lot of people ended up cutting him. He threw 33 touchdown passes, but a lot of that because his receivers were yardage after the catch types. He just wasn't throwing downfield. It was under 7 yards an attempt last year. So Roethlisberger's more of a facilitator than what he was earlier in his career where he could break the pocket, take a hit, throw deep, etc. There's a good chance they're going to lose Juju Smith-Schuster. They can't afford to keep him, but you got two nice receivers in there in Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson, who's really ready to become the number one receiver on that team like we saw last year, now that he's curbed the drops and the other issues that he's had. So, Roethlisberger's familiar with them. I think they find, I'm just making a prediction here and anything could happen. I think they find a way to work it out because he's familiar with them. They're familiar with him, and there's not much that they can do out there in terms of maneuverability. Fantasy-wise, I think it's pretty good for Claypool and Deontay Johnson to have a quarterback that they're familiar with next year.
At this point, Scott, Pittsburgh is scheduled to be over $15 million over the cap. Now, a lot of that can obviously change. And I agree with you. I think what you'll see is a contract restructuring out of Ben Roethlisberger. We know James Conner is a free agent. He won't be back. I agree with you. Juju Smith-Schuster won't be back. They've got to cut some money somewhere in Pittsburgh. Meanwhile, all the while, try to maintain, it's a playoff team, a 12-win team, a team that won the division that's going to try to stay with Baltimore, the resurgent Cleveland Browns. And, Cincinnati, for as bad as they were, does have a quarterback in place and a future many people think is bright because of that. So it's going to be fun to watch how Pittsburgh handles this offseason. But I agree with you on one thing. So many teams are talking about changing quarterbacks this offseason. The question is somebody an upgrade over Ben or that they can afford? And that becomes the big issue. I agree with you. I don't think the quarterback is on the roster. And I think Ben, if he wants to stay in Pittsburgh, is going to take a pretty big salary cut. They're going to restructure that contract and figure out a way to make one last run with him in this upcoming season, maybe 2 seasons. And then at that point, start planning for the future. What do you think? When
I think of Ben Roethlisberger, I think the people offering silly dynasty trades in my FFPC Dynasty League, where I won. I have Phillip Rivers retiring and don't know what Cam Newton's going on with. They also have Russell Wilson. But I put a note out to the league, I'm looking for a quarterback. I'm not looking for a blockbuster, somebody that starts. Somebody offers me Ben Roethlisberger for a 3rd-round pick. I'm like, do you know I do this for a living?
5th-round pick? If you knew Ben was back, in Pittsburgh next year, in a dynasty, would you even consider acquiring him just for 1 year, considering the position you're in?
I would maybe deal him for something like a double-figure round pick.
Okay.
We have those in the FFPC Dynasty.
Right.
But I get all kinds of wacky offers, Derek Carr for a 1st-rounder, things like that.
Yeah, that's a little aggressive.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Scott, speaking of free agents, one of the things I wanted to cover with you today is the free agents at the running back position. And obviously Aaron Jones is the biggest name out there as a free agent running back. And to me, it's going to be a tough situation for the Green Bay Packers to bring him back. I think we agree Aaron Rodgers would want him back, but you have a Green Bay team that invested in A.J. Dillon in the draft just last year, showed glimpses down the stretch of being effective. Aaron Jones is still there, and he's the feature guy, and he's going to get offers. Does Aaron Jones remain a Green Bay Packer, or do you see a team like, the New York Jets, another team that could possibly look to invest in Aaron Jones as the running back position? And I want to get your take on this as well. If your team is looking to spend money, is that a position you want to even spend money on?
It's interesting. I was listening to Peter King, who I actually did a pay-per-view in the past with and have a lot of respect for. And he said, but some of the top running backs out there that, they will spend some money, but they're not going to spend top money at the position. I think the Packers in concept, they want to retain Aaron Jones and try to find a way to work it out here because I think they'd like to have a dual threat backfield. I know a lot of people who roster A.J. Dillon in dynasty leagues want him to be the pure feature back, but I think they prefer a timeshare there. I think they've tried to do it with Jones and Williams. If they're not able to afford him, though, I think Miami would be an absolutely terrific landing spot. I think, they need to lock down that backfield. They're missing, as good as Gaskin is, I don't know if they view him as the long-term solution as good as he's played. New England, I think, could use a running back, but once they're around him, and Belichick likes it, whoever's running the offense, McDaniels, they prefer to run a committee. There's a lot of good landing spots for him out there, but I think they want to find a way to make it work in Green Bay, and it really depends on the offense where he would land. Because he gets so many touchdown opportunities because that offense is so good. I think, and anything can happen here. I would think they're going to find a creative way to get him back in Green Bay because the Packers have already shown that as much as people want that ideal second receiver, Will Fuller type, next to Devontae Adams, the Packers will move on without it every year. I think they probably consider Aaron Jones more important.
Yeah. That'll be interesting to see where Aaron Jones goes. I do kind of agree with you. I could see him back in Green Bay, but now that opens up the running back situation around the rest of the league. And one player I don't think will be back with his current team is Chris Carson of your Seattle Seahawks hitting free agency. Listen, I love Chris Carson. The problem with Chris Carson is he runs hard. And when you run hard like Chris Carson does, you get banged up. Rashad Penny got healthy for Seattle off the ACL. He's going to be a full year healthy now coming into next year. Chris Carson hitting free agency. Do you see Seattle retaining him? And does he have the opportunity, if not in Seattle, to go somewhere else and become that feature back?
Yeah. Early word is that he's going to want about $8 million a year, and I don't think the Seahawks are going to pay that for a running back. You look at the games missed; it's not that much, but he does come out of games. He does get banged up because you respect his style. I interviewed Chris Carson 2 years ago, and he said, he's not apologizing for the way that he runs. He wants to make the defense hurt. He wants to inflict as much damage on the defense as they do on him, and he's not going to change his style. I like watching Carson when he's healthy because, he does a great job of moving the pile, of accelerating at the point of attack and gaining extra yardage. He's breaking tackles. He's a very good running back. He's borderline top 5 in fantasy when he's healthy. But, we've just seen too many injuries for fantasy purposes, I think, over the year. And I think the Seahawks are willing to see what they have in Penny here, investing a first-round pick in him and, maybe bringing back a Mike Davis or somebody like that, for change of pace. I think they're willing to go with a committee. DJ Dallas might be a little too early in his career. I think you're going to see another running back replace Chris Carson in that backfield, but Rashad Penny is going to have a good chance to start. And that's a guy that might not be drafted in fantasy drafts until the 5th round or so. And he's had trouble staying healthy, but there's a ton of upside. He's got a lot more. He's not as physical as Carson, but he's got a ton of speed. When he has been healthy and when he's played well, he can take off from anywhere on the field.
Carson showed the ability this year to be a more than capable pass catcher as well. Early in the year, he was catching touchdowns from Russell Wilson. He was heavily involved in 3 downs. So he's going to go somewhere and have an impact. But when you run like Derrick Henry, you got to be as big as Derrick Henry. And that's where the durability, I think, comes into play a little bit with Carson.
Yeah, he's a little different than Derrick Henry.
He wants to inflict pain like Derrick Henry.
He does in that approach, but style-wise, I think he's kind of different than Henry. Henry is more pure strength, and Carson's more shifty.
Yeah, one of the running backs who's hitting free agency was one of the biggest fantasy disappointments this past year, and that's Kenyan Drake. Miami to Arizona. He had a little cup of coffee with Arizona when he first came over. That was terrific. Everybody tripped over themselves, fell in love with Kenyan Drake. He goes in the first round, and then Kenyan Drake went back to kind of being Kenyan Drake. Let's just be honest about that. Under 1,000 yards. He did have 10 touchdowns, but he certainly didn't live up to the first-round hype. Arizona has Chase Edmonds in place. They may prefer to go there as well. Kenyan Drake, does he go somewhere and have the opportunity to be a feature back? Or is he going back into a split carry situation where maybe he's best suited?
I think he's more suited for the split carry kind of. We saw some, down in the second half of the season, we saw some games like 2 years ago, but we've never seen him do it wire to wire where he's been an outstanding running back. I think he ends up somewhere as a complementary piece and, maybe more of a flex play.
Yeah. 2 more running backs I wanted to ask you about. Leonard Fournette, cut by the Jags, Tampa Bay, wins the ring. Now, his overall numbers were not great. He was behind Ronald Jones at the early part of the year. Down the stretch, though, he ran well in a split situation, really, with Ronald Jones. He wants to go back to Tampa, and I think that's the best spot for him. Leonard Fournette, is he going to be a useful fantasy play next year wherever he may end up?
Well, if he's back in Tampa Bay, at best he's a flex. And it'll make things unpredictable from week to week, although we'll try to lean towards Ronald Jones. We saw the ups and downs. It's an interesting story because week 14 he was inactive, and Bruce Arians actually told him, you can stay here. It's a good situation for you, but if you want to play somewhere else, I'll cut you. And he decided to stay. He knew it was a good situation for him, maybe not in terms of getting carries necessarily, but a chance to win. We saw Fournette in the past, durability issues. We saw a little bit more of this year. 2019, he managed to stay healthy. If he goes somewhere else, maybe he'll be a little overdrafted based on what he did in the playoffs. He's versatile. He's capable of being a lead back somewhere else. If he goes somewhere else, that obviously boosts his fantasy value, I think, into fantasy RB2 territory. If you're in a dynasty league right now, the value is very uncertain whether you're trading for him or trying to trade him away.
The one thing Fournette did show in his time in Jacksonville is the ability to be 3 downs. All right, this is a 100-target running back in Jacksonville. His last season there, he has the ability to catch the ball. It's just right now in Tampa, Ronald Jones is every bit as good as Leonard Fournette, and you're looking at a timeshare situation if he returns there. 2 more running backs.
I think a lot of NFL teams, are not going to have that, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey sort of player, Ezekiel Elliott, unless they're actually on the roster right now. Saquon Barkley types where it's just one guy. Other teams, they want to keep their running backs fresh. They want to keep defenses off of balance by giving them, looks at 2 different styles of running backs. So I think that's ideally what Tampa Bay would like to keep, because I don't think they view, Ronald Jones as like a pure feature back that, he can really excel in a timeshare.
Yeah. What about Todd Gurley, Scott?
What about him?
26 years old. Again, faded down the stretch with Atlanta. The knee is bad. Scott, my take, you're falling asleep on me. I'm telling you this. I don't think Todd Gurley plays in the NFL next year.
He's done. He's done. All right. The guy, look, I don't mean to disrespect Todd Gurley. He gave me a Super Bowl win in one of my biggest fantasy leagues 3 years ago, but he showed me absolutely nothing this year, and it's kind of what I expected. Yeah. Todd Gurley is done. I think there's an exclamation point on it this year that he was. Maybe somebody gives him a chance to be a part. He can still score near the goal line, but that's about it. I mean, what's the difference between signing Todd Gurley and bringing Marshawn Lynch back again?
Yeah, I agree. I just want to get your take. I think at 26 years old, unfortunately, Todd Gurley's career is just about over. That knee can't hack it.
I don't want to talk anymore about Todd Gurley.
All right, we'll move on. Last guy, James Conner. We just said at the beginning, we don't expect him back in Pittsburgh. He showed a glimpse the year Le'Veon Bell held out. He was an effective running back. But another guy who just can't stay on the field, probably best suited again for a split carry situation because his body just breaks down too easily and can't handle that full workload.
Yeah, that's the type where he could end up in a Latavius Murray, Gus Edwards kind of role, I think. Go somewhere, maybe share the carries.
Miami with Myles Gaskin?
I'd like to see Miami get somebody that is more impactful, I think, but I can see that. Maybe New England is a place.
Seattle with Rashad Penny.
I was about to say, if the Seahawks were going to lose Carson, you could bring Connor in there, because 2 years ago, what Seattle wanted to do was they wanted to have the kind of old thunder and lightning thing, like you Giant fans used to say, about
Bradshaw and
Jacobs and Barber, I think it was,
and Bradshaw,
and Bradshaw. They wanted to have Carson hit people hard and have Penny work on the perimeter. I could see that with a James Conner, not spending money for, necessarily getting somebody like that. He'll find a job somewhere, and, he's still capable of, when he's healthy, he could still play well and, maybe provide some fantasy value there. Obviously, it depends on where he lands. I mean, what's Houston going to do at running back? They don't have anything there really.
You think a team takes a flyer on Marlon Mack coming off the Achilles?
I think they do. That's another one who, I don't think he's going to be back. And teams that we're talking about, like
he's still only 24 years old. He's younger than every other running back we talk about.
Houston, Seattle, Miami, New England. What about Buffalo too? Maybe they're not sold on Zach Moss, but then again, Marlon Mack and James Conner really don't fit the style of what they want to do, I think.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Zach Moss, I wanted to get your take because this past year was an interesting year in terms of second and rookie running backs. We had some guys who were overhyped maybe at the start of the year. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Cam Akers came on late. There are a ton of running backs who I think are going to go early in the first 2-3 rounds of fantasy drafts. Cam Akers, DeAndre Swift, Edwards-Helaire, James Robinson, who I think is already being forgotten in Jacksonville, J.K. Dobbins, Antonio Gibson, Jonathan Taylor. When you look at those guys going into second year, who leads the way for you? Who are these, out of these players, who are your top 12 first-round picks of these second-year running backs?
Boy, the hype train is, running off the rails when it comes to Jonathan Taylor. Our Michael Florio at rotoballer.com, who hosts the SiriusXM fantasy show with us, said, I did my early rankings, he said on Twitter. I ranked him number 6. Is that too high? And then somebody responded, well, I have him at number 2.
I've seen people who've said he's their number 1 pick next year.
Yeah, I think that's getting a little crazy, but we could see it in the FFPC and high stakes league. Everybody just gets so fascinated with upside. But we still have to see the kid do it over a full year. What's the quarterback situation? I'm good taking him about number 8. He was the best pure runner coming out of the draft. And he played so well down the stretch and in the playoffs that he is a first-round pick. But I think to take him over a more proven running back at number 2 overall, I think, like Jerry Seinfeld said, that's kind of a big matzo ball to throw out there. Cam Akers is not too far behind him for me. He's a top 10 running back for me because when you play so well like he did in the playoffs, and you play so well on that sort of stage, and that the Rams drafted him with the intent of making him a crux of the offense, he's not too far away from Taylor. And for me, he's a better receiver. Not that Taylor can't be a good receiver, but, look at what he did in the NFC wildcard game, 44-yard catch and run. That was really big for them. So I think if you're saying number 2 or number 1 overall, I think it's getting a little too ambitious for my sake. For me, it's about what you've proven, as well as what the upside is. It's a combination of that. I'm not gonna take Jonathan Taylor over Derrick Henry.
No.
I'm probably not gonna take him over McCaffrey. Not gonna, at least. I could probably see him 5th best overall if I want to get really rich. I got Snowy whispering in my ear here that it's just a little too crazy, but Akers is not too far behind him. And then when you look at those second-year running backs, I want to rank James Robinson 3rd, but what's going to happen under this Urban Meyer regime here?
Right. See, I have J.K.
How is the offense going to change?
I have Dobbins at 3.
I don't think they ideally want him to get 99% of the carries here. So what kind of workload is he going to have next year? He was very workload heavy this year, as good as he was.
Yeah, see, I have Dobbins at 3 in that offense. He'll be the number 1 running back, other than obviously the quarterback there. But Robinson is an interesting play with the new coaching staff. And now we talk about Edwards-Helaire, right? who was a lock stock first-round pick. Our friend Josh Hayes actually did a draft where he went first overall last season, and now we're putting him out of the first round into the second round at a minimum. And Edwards-Helaire is still on arguably the best offense in the league, and in a PPR format will have points to put up. How far does Edwards-Helaire fall in your mind in year two after being, let's be honest, a big disappointment in his rookie year?
I know me and Josh Hayes aren't always seeing eye to eye on things. We do shows together nowadays. We had a big argument the other day on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio because he says Sammy Watkins still has the talent to be a number one wide receiver in this league if he goes somewhere like
Sammy Watkins gets under your skin, Scott.
Yeah, and I'm like, I started screaming and yelling. I said, it's not about talent. Kristen Michael had talent. The guy's not capable of being a number one wide receiver. When you play with Patrick Mahomes and you can't make the most of it, just stop. Okay, we're stuck in 2015. I love you, Josh. You prove me wrong sometimes, but
Clyde Edwards-Helaire,
Sammy Watkins. But let me get back to these second-year running backs. Clyde
Edwards-Helaire or Gibson? Let me ask you that. Edwards-Helaire or Gibson?
Tell you what, I'm going to rank the second-year running backs.
All right, that's what I want. That's what I want.
Yeah. Taylor, Akers. Right now, James Robinson, Antonio Gibson, because he came in very raw and picked up things very quickly, and they may get better on offense. And he's really very prolific in terms of touchdowns. DeAndre Swift, I want to rank third, but they're going to tie the offense to him a lot. When I think it over, it's close between him and Gibson. But I think I got to see a little more from Swift. We see flashes. I haven't seen as much week to week. They're about tied for me. I have Dobbins fifth because as much as we want to like him, they may retain Gus Edwards and it could be a timeshare, and we could see more of that fantasy frustration where Dobbins just isn't getting enough work, even though he looks like the best player on the field. Then after that, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is in a great offense, but the running game is secondary there in Kansas City. After that, A.J. Dillon, who could move up the charts if Jones is gone. And then you got Zach Moss, who just didn't show us a lot this year. Thinking it over, I'd probably put Swift over Gibson. So,
yeah, I agree. I would take Swift over Gibson. You figure he's going to be the
Do I take Swift over Robinson? I don't know. Robinson showed us a lot this year. That was the biggest Pro Bowl snub.
Yes. And considering obviously undrafted and the whole story there. I go Taylor, Akers. I actually have Dobbins 3, Robinson 4, Edwards-Helaire 5, Gibson 6, Dillon 7, Moss 8. Obviously agreeing with you that A.J. Dillon could climb up those rankings if Aaron Jones.
Why are you so high on Dobbins?
It's a run-first offense, and he's going to be the feature back. Edwards is going to get his. He's
going to be the feature back.
Edwards is going to be the change. Edwards is going to get his 8
run
to 10.
First offense with the quarterback running.
Yeah, but he's still good. He's still good for 15 touches a game, Dobbins. And on that offense, that offense is going to run the ball down people's throat. I just like Dobbins in that situation. Listen. You said the Rams are going to go with Akers because they invested him in the second round. Ravens invested in Dobbins in the second round. He's in the same
Akers
type of situation.
Akers is going to be a feature back. I'm not so sure that Dobbins is going to be a pure feature back.
I think.
Plus, we don't have a running quarterback in Los Angeles either.
No, I get that, but Dobbins, I think, he's still 15 touches a game. That's just the way Baltimore runs that offense. Okay, Ingram got his 15 touches a game 2-3 years ago, even with Lamar Jackson having the year he did. So I wouldn't expect anything less from Dobbins. I think the touchdowns
there might be some more
well.
frustration coming there. I think he might be more of a fantasy number 2 than a number 1.
We shall see. That's why we play the game.
We'll see.
And that's why we talk about it. Guys, speaking of talk about it, head over to rotoballer.com and check out everything we have there. The main page, the premium package, expert chats, whether it's DFS or season long, whatever style of fantasy sports you play, rotoballer.com has you covered. Football, basketball, baseball, MMA, esports, NASCAR, PGA, rotoballer.com, the place to be. And again, sign up for any premium packages using the promotional code KING, letting them know Scott sent you, or ACES, and letting him know Anthony sent you, and you save a little bit of money on those premium package. All right, we've reached halftime here today, folks. When we return, some baseball, some basketball talk. This is the King and Pocket Aces Show, Episode 2. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Halftime's over. We're back. Anthony Aniano, Pocket Aces, the King, Scott Engel, here for the second half of the King and Pocket Aces show. All right, Scotty's shooting jumpers. He's got, what's his, Snowy? His. If anybody ever wanted to know where Scott got his fantasy information from, I'm pretty certain it's that stuffed cat sitting over his right shoulder. Is that kind of accurate there, Scott?
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of the Persian cat my mom actually had when I was growing up.
Okay.
It was a gift from my wife, and it's nostalgia for me.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Nice Valentine's Day gift.
There you go. As a dog guy myself, that you'll occasionally hear barking in the background. I'll respect anybody.
I can bark in the background too.
That's a different podcast. It's a different podcast, Scott. Scott, let's talk some baseball because pitchers and catchers have reported, and one of the I guess least surprising announcements of the last couple of days is Aaron Boone of the Yankees finally doing what I think a lot of us have been waiting for him to do. And that's naming officially Clint Frazier as the starting left fielder of the New York Yankees. 26 years old. They got him a few years ago in the Andrew Miller trade from Cleveland. He'll be in left. Aaron Hicks will be in center. Judge in right. And Giancarlo will DH. That's kind of how the Yankees have this playing out. In 39 games, only 160 plate appearances last year, 8 home runs, 267, a terrific 394 on-base percentage. Clint Frazier is now in the conversation as a terrific draft day value. And I think as we get closer and closer to your fantasy baseball draft, somebody whose value may actually go a little crazy and maybe go too high for what he's actually worth.
Yeah, I got him for $1 last year in the Tout Wars Mixed League auction. Because when I do my fantasy baseball insider reports that'll be coming up on rotoballer.com very soon, I talked to beat writers around the majors, and one beat writer told me that all Clint Frazier needs is an opportunity to play every day, that it's a mental thing with him, that he's almost like a running back in football where he needs carries regularly because when he plays regularly, it boosts his confidence. He gets in a nice rhythm. If he's in and out of the lineup, he doesn't get in the groove. So, you look at last year, and if you play in a league with on-base percentage, his walk rate of 15.6 was top 7% in the majors. So if you're playing in a league where you either use OBP or, your head-to-head points and, you're looking to see for a guy who gets on base a lot, he's attractive as a pick from that perspective. Batting average-wise, last year the XBA was 247. You don't figure him hit more than 260. The strikeout rate was 27.5.
That's my only concern with him, Scott. This is a lifetime 29% strikeout guy over 4 small sample seasons with the Yankees.
Yeah, if you sit by an old plate at Yankee Stadium, your hat's going to blow off your head. Not quite as much as it would with Miguel Sano.
Right.
But basically that's a wind tunnel you're sitting behind there. But he did have a 26.7 HR to fly ball rate last year. So, maybe a little bit less than over a full season. What extrapolated to, if he had 600 at bats, and he probably have about 30 home runs. I think he can be a 260, 27 homer type of guy. And for where you're going to get him in drafts, I think that's pretty good. There might be upside for him to hit 30, if he gets fortunate.
I look at his numbers, and I envision, I agree with you, 260. That's what he's been. There's something to be said about that. 27, 90 home run type of, 90 RBI type of player is where I kind of have Frazier in that lineup. And he's going to play a big role, right? Because We know Giancarlo Stanton always gets banged up. We know Aaron Judge always gets banged up. They haven't brought back at the time of this taping Brett Gardner in the Bronx. So it's a situation where Frazier's going to have the opportunity to be out there every single day. And in that stadium, if you have any type of power, those 25 home runs, you can hit him by mistake, and he's better than a mistake hitter. He's a good hitter. I'd love to see him cut that strikeout rate down, get that under 25%. But all other things considered, Clint Frazier getting that nod now, I think you're going to see it, though. I think people are going to try to hero draft him, and they're going to take him sooner than he's actually worth. That's my only concern, is this announcement coming out this week actually potentially hurts his value, because the word is out and people are going to try to be the hero and say, hey, I got Clint Frazier and look how smart I am.
Yeah, but I think it's good for his confidence, like I was talking about. You know, what I try to do, talking to a lot of beat reporters and being on the beat by myself when there's no pandemic, I look at things for the intangible side, and Clint Frazier needs that confidence boost. He needs it now. So, I think it only helps his potential to know that, hey, that I'm the guy.
Yeah, absolutely. So good for him. It's going to be one. I love him as a outfielder 3 in your fantasy leagues. His ability to hit the ball over the fence, decent batting average, a lot of RBI potential in that Yankee lineup. Now, Scott, if you head over to rotoballer.com, you'll get access to our fantasy baseball rankings, premium package, the draft guide, all of that fantasy baseball content that you're looking for. So I wanted to take a look at some wide receivers here coming into 2021 and get your takes on some of these guys. Now, just this past week in mixed labor fantasy baseball draft, Mookie Betts was the second overall
Wait a minute. Mookie
pick.
Betts is moving a wide receiver?
No, what did I say? Wide receiver? I meant outfielder. Yeah. The second overall outfielder was
I don't know. LeBron James said, he
could play pro football if you ask him,
receiver.
Right? He would have made the Seahawks and the Cowboys, he said this week. But Mookie Betts was the second overall pick in mixed labor draft. After Tatis, he went ahead of Juan Soto, Ronald Acuna, Mike Trout. Betts on the Dodgers. Listen, 219 at-bats last year. He had 292 at 16 home runs. Mookie Betts is the epitome of a superstar. But when you look at that first round of a mixed draft, is he your first pick? Is he your second pick? You really can't go wrong, I think, in the top 5.
I think you take him as early as second. I heard our Ariel Cohen, FSWA award-winner, congratulations on Sirius XM with the guys, Raph and Josh this week. And he was talking just about how important it is to get those combinations of speed and power. And last year, Mookie was along. I'm not on a first-name basis with him, but I guess growing up a Met fan, calling a guy Mookie by his first name comes natural to me. But he was among the league leaders in homers and stolen bases. The slugging percentage jumped from 524 to 562. The launch angle actually went from 18.5 to 15.9. The XBA went down. The X-slugging went down. The walk rate fell. But I don't think in a smaller sample size of 1/3 of a season, they don't point to anything alarming. I think just maybe you shouldn't expect a batting average well over 300 or an OBP significantly over 416 homers may not translate into 35 or 38. I think you'll get more of the 2019 totals than the 2018 totals. But, let's remember, he's one of 2 Dodgers to steal 2 bases in multiple playoff games last season. It's very tough to get the combination of batting average or on-base percentage, power and speed that he provides in hitting at such a tremendous lineup. So, I could see him taking Mookie Betts as early as 2. The NFBC ADP right now is 3.
Okay, so he's right there. Ronald Acuna, Juan Soto, Mike Trout. Seems like Tatis seems to be the guy a lot of people are leaning at number 1, which is completely understandable. Scott, second outfielder, I almost said wide receiver again. Second outfielder I wanted to mention.
Football on the mind.
There you go. Is Kyle Tucker of the Astros. Overall outfielder rank on rotoballer.com. Rotoballer has him ranked at number 9, 24 years old. Gets his first real full shot at the big leagues last year with Houston. 58 games, 228 plate appearances. Showed a nice power speed combination, right? 9 homers, 8 stolen bases, 268. And listen, for a young kid, I get excited over that strikeout rate at just about 20%. That's where I want it to be, especially for a 24-year-old kid really getting his first crack. Ranked real high, though, by Rotoballer, and that's what I find interesting. He's at number 9, ahead of proven sluggers like George Springer, ahead of proven sluggers like Marcell Ozuna, Yordan Alvarez, Aaron Judge. He's ahead of all of those guys. So is this another power speed combo play? Is that why we see him ranked in the top 10 for outfielders in 2021?
It's upside, power, and speed. And, right now the ADP is 31st overall. He's just 24 years old, and he's going to be hitting a prime spot in that Astros batting order. His 42 RBIs were among the league leaders. He stole 8 bases, the sprint speed of 27.6. Didn't jump out at you, but, it shows that he knows what he's doing on the bases. He had an exit velocity of 91.1 and a barrel percentage of 8.8, which isn't great. Neither is the ex-Wober of 318 or the ex-Slugger of 459, and he hit just 217 against lefties. So, there are some advanced, StatCast numbers that point to the fact that he's still kind of a work in progress, but when you consider his age and the faith in the organization that that they're placing in him, he's kind of worthy of that top 30 pick. 34 homers and 30 steals in AAA in 2019. They've been waiting, to give this guy a chance for a while. But if it comes down to a tight decision between a more established player and Tucker, it depends on what kind of league I'm playing in, actually.
Right, like if you're sitting there and Tucker and Aaron Judge are both on the board?
I'm taking Tucker because I know, much as I like Judge, and I can tell you for sure, one of the nicest guys in Major League Baseball. But that doesn't affect my draft strategy. I know Judge is going to get hurt. Yeah. So I'm going to take Tucker. But if I'm going to take someone already proven that's dependable, like with Springer, I know I'm not getting the stolen bases, but if there's another combination of power and speed, the fact that Tucker's still got to prove it a little bit more in every fantasy sport. Yeah. I always lean towards the more proven guy. Yeah. Now, if I'm playing in the NFBC or I'm playing in Tout Wars and I need to make that big sort of move and play for upside sometimes, I might lean towards Tucker. But if I'm just playing in my regular home league, I might play it safe a little more.
Okay, fair enough. Now, one outfielder we know who kind of puts up similar numbers each and every week, third base, second base, outfield eligible, Nick Castellanos of now the Cincinnati Reds, year 2 with Cincinnati. This is what I always refer to as a back of the baseball card type of player. Still only 28 years old, 274 lifetime hitter. And you look over the last couple of years. Now, last year in 60 games, he only hit 225. But to me, that's the outlier. When you look at 289, 298, 272, 285, 4 seasons before that, 20 home runs, 25 home runs in his sleep. Okay. Rotoballer.com has him sitting right now as outfielder number 22. Your take on Castellanos of the Reds?
Well, the back of the baseball card got a little bit of a stain in the batting average.
Yeah, but how much are you taking into? Let me ask you that. How much are you taking into the last season's shortened season? Is that ruining a player for you?
He is. He had a chance to opt out and he didn't, so he knew he stunk. But also career worst 28.5% K rate, which was, he raised his launch angle from 14 to 16.5. which gave him 14 homers in 60 games, but he had a home run fly ball rate of 23.7. And, that's nothing encouraging, but it did give him a profile more of a swing and miss, boomer bust sort of guy. But, consider the XBA of 272 and a career low 252 BABIP. And that he's a career 274 hitter with a lifetime K percentage of 23.5. So, and, last year, career low 287 OBP. I think there's a regression to the mean. I think in a 1/3 of a season sample game size, which really was the 2020 season, I'm not going to get too crazy about this.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not gonna devalue him too much over a 60-game sample. There is a bit of a track record there with him. Now, another player, another outfielder is Ian Happ of the Chicago Cubs, Scott. A improving strikeout rate. I will give him that. In 2018, it was at 36%. Last season, it was down to 27%. Not great, but an improvement. And he does draw walks at 13%. He's a 361 on-base percentage guy last season and flashed some power in 57 games, 12 homers, 28 RBIs. Should have the opportunity to play just about every day with the Cubs. Is this a Fisher-like pick for you in some high-stakes league as maybe that upside play who could take it to the next level this year?
A Fisher-type play, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Fisher.
I wanted to make sure what type of Fisher you were talking about here. Okay. Yeah, he's an on-base percentage guy, 12 homers in 57 games, 13% walk rate, which meant 361 OBP. I think that's maybe a little bit of a hero expectation this year, you would say. 27.3% K percentage. So the batting average is always going to be mediocre. And last year against lefties, in 43 at-bats, 1 homer and 2 RBIs. But, Joe Madden wasn't going to give him the chance before to play regularly. I think David Ross will. He's going to be their leadoff hitter because of his on-base percentage skills. He lowered his launch angle from 10.3. From 13.7 the previous year, and the expected batting average jumped from 240 to 262, and the hard hit rate went from 38.2 to 48.5. So he seems to be trending towards a baseline of 250 batting average, really good power, good on-base skills. For an ADP of 162, I'll definitely take the shot.
Yeah, no, that's fair at that ADP. It's not terrible. There is an upside move there with him. Now, we spoke of Clint Frazier of the Yankees earlier. Scott, I got a story to tell you here. Aaron Hicks of the New York Yankees, about 2 weeks ago in the SiriusXM Baseball Dynasty League, our friend Steve Phillips sent about 1 million different trade offers.
Yeah, that's Steve. Yeah,
that's Steve, right? We all know it, right? God bless. One of the offers he sent me, every now and then I think you get an offer that, to me, I just can't hit yes fast enough. He offered me Josh Donaldson, and I have a hole at third base, middle infield on a team that is built to contend right now. I do think my team is. In exchange for Aaron Hicks. Aaron Hicks, who would not crack
Get
my
off the show. Accept it right now.
Yeah, right? Not even he doesn't even crack my top 5 outfielders this year. Josh Donaldson for Aaron Hicks. It was the one time Steve has sent me a trade where I just couldn't wait to say yes and accept the trade. And I know Donaldson has dealt with injuries in the past, but so is Hicks. And Hicks isn't young. He's 30. I don't want to say he's old, but he's 31 for a 35-year-old Donaldson. But Aaron Hicks last season hit 225. He hit 235 the year before for the Yankees. He hit 248 in 2018 when he had 27 home runs. Aaron Hicks, to me, is an overrated player. He's a 4th or 5th fantasy outfielder at best. He gets a lot of love because of the Yankee hype. What is your take on Aaron Hicks?
Yeah, 5th outfielder. Last year, the strikeout rate went up to 19.4, and he hit just 225. The launch angle went down to 6.9. He was still strong with a 379 OBP, and the walk rate of 19.4 was among the best in the league. The XBA was 257, exit velocity of 88.8, pretty much line in career norms. He's still going to probably hit 3rd for the Yankee lineup, and you could probably expect the type of return what you used to get in the past, a batting average that won't kill you, better in OBP leagues. His ADP, shows that, there's really no upside built in. Final outfield spot, more appeal in an OBP type league, or where you lean on OPP and head-to-head sort of formats. If that's somebody in a 5x5, you go, is it him or Eduardo Escobar for my utility spot, or something like that. Who am I going to settle for here? And maybe you lean to a little towards Hicks. He actually stayed healthy last year, but even though it was still a third of the season, he played 54 games.
Yeah, it just didn't do all that much. 225, not very exciting. And let's be honest, the Yankees have depth at outfielder. Ford, Topman, other guys out there as well who could slide into the outfield if Hicks struggles. I know Brian Cashman gave him a big extension a few years back, so they're kind of financially tied to him in some ways. But nonetheless, Aaron Hicks, a back of in a 12-team 5x5 draft, he's your second to last round pick. He's a late round outfielder pick, and treat him as such. Now, one outfielder, though, I am excited about, Scott, that you can get. Rotoballer.com, Baseball Dress has him as overall number 274, outfielder 74, and that's Manny Margot of the Tampa Bay Rays. And you talk about a player who late in the draft can provide you stolen base upside. That's Margot. He had 269 last year. It was a career high in 47 games, 159 plate appearances. On-base percentage was .327. Now, the good news about him, walks about 8% of the time, doesn't strike out much, less than 16% last year, okay? And in those 47 games, he gave you 12 stolen bases, which is kind of what he was with San Diego. He was a hype stolen base guy. Year one with the Rays, came into those stolen bases, 12 steals in less than 50 games, had 20 stolen bases in 2019. He, to me, is the prototypical late-round stolen base guy. I'd rather have him as my fourth or fifth outfielder than Aaron Hicks, because I know at the very least that one solid category he's going to give me over the course of a full season and every day at bats. I'm looking at a 20 stolen base guy. If you could get that late in the draft, I think you have to get it, because that speed is harder to find than the power is later in a draft.
Yeah, ADP of 260 right now makes him very alluring. Wasn't so great during the regular season last year, but during the playoffs, 5 homers, 11 RBIs, and 2 steals in 19 games. During the regular season, still had 12 steals in 47 games, and the batting average jumped to 269 from 234. He lowered his launch angle from 14.2 to 7.5.
Which is probably the right move for him, though, Scott. He's not.
Well, when you look at something else, though, the exit velocity and the barrels, were not that good. And the XBA was just 255. He was in the bottom 5% of the league in slugging and xWOBA 2 years ago, and he only hit just 1 homer during the regular season. That was a concern. There was really no pop or power production, and just a mediocre batting average pretty much. When you look at the XBA 255, where was the run production going? You were still getting some speed, but you weren't getting any power. And then it really returned in the playoffs. I think, again, like I say, her third of the season, like with Castellanos, look for a rebound in power. And this guy is a nice value at 260.
Right. He has shown double-digit power. In 2017 with the Padres, his rookie year, 13 homers, 17 steals. In 2019, his last season with the Padres, 12 homers and 20 steals. If you could get out of Manny Margot at that ADP, like you said, of 260, if you could get 10 homers, 25 stolen bases, I think you're ecstatic with that. And a useful batting average of 260 or higher. Manny Margot with a 10-25 type of season, with that ADP, he's going to settle into your fantasy lineup. And at the end of the season, you're going to realize, wow, I had him in my lineup every single week. I never really had to take him out. And I didn't win stolen bases, but Manny Margot got me just enough stolen base points to let me win a fantasy championship.
Yeah, he helped me. I don't know if you're going to get 270, maybe quite. Like I said, the XBA was 255. 260, 12 homers, 20-plus steals.
I'll take it.
I'll take it at that point in the draft.
Right. Absolutely. I'll definitely take it at 260. And, guys, don't forget, head over to rotoballer.com, sign up for that premium package. Check out all of these rankings that we've been talking about here today. Scott, before we wrap this up, though, you're wearing your Knicks hat. Let's talk a little fantasy basketball waiver wire.
Julius Randle, MVP.
What is
All-Star, not MVP?
That has been, listen, you're more of a basketball guy than I am, but my goodness, Julius Randle has taken things by storm here, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's finally living up to his draft position, original NBA draft position. But he did a lot of work in the offseason, and it's really paying off right now. Mid-range and three-pointers, just the best that we've ever seen him. He's been a terrific fantasy basketball value and a pleasure to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been fun to make your New York Knickerbockers relevant again. Scott, I'm going to throw a few names at you. Marcus Morris, 47% rostered. Your take on Mr. Morris as a fantasy-based basketball waiver wire ad?
Yeah, seems like I'm waiting forever in one of my leagues for LaMarcus Aldridge to return. So, forward's thin. And I noticed that Marcus Morris was available in my league. And, check your free agent list. Maybe he is in yours, but he probably got scooped up again more this week. The Clippers are dealing with some injuries there in the front court. Paul George, as we record this, still sitting out with the toe injury. Morris had a great game earlier this week where he actually scored a career-high 26 in the first half, ended up with 32 on 6 3-pointers. He's going to continue to get opportunities even when everybody's healthy. The deeper your league goes, the more he can help in terms of double-figure points and some threes for a big guy.
Yeah. Elfrid Payton, 39% rostered, Scott. Maybe a little more accessible in leagues than Marcus Morris.
A lot of people don't want to add Payton to their fantasy roster because they feel just, all of a sudden it could turn into mediocrity. But right now with the Knicks, I think, he reads all, everything from the local websites and here's the talk about quickly, breathing down his neck as the old cliche goes. And they just acquired Derrick Rose and he's consistently scoring in double figures. He's driving to the hoop a lot. He's actually contending for rebounds. He'll give you a few rebounds from the guard spot. So, if you're looking for some guard help, look, there's talk he may be traded too. If he ends up in another situation, I'm wondering what he can do with more full-time playing time because he's starting to come on recently.
Yeah. Jeff Green, 29% rostered, Scott.
Yeah, the Nets dealing with some issues. Kevin Durant had the COVID thing, and then, he's dealing with a hamstring. But even when they're around, Jeff Green's consistently scoring in double figures, can really hit from all over the court, very effective driving to the basket. If you're looking for a plugger at forward, Jeff Green is somebody worth taking a look at.
One of my favorite names in the NBA, Lou Gentz Dort. 34% rostered, Scott. Thank you for clearing up that pronunciation for me. Hopefully I got it right. But Mr. Dort is available 34% of leagues.
Yeah, and OKC has some really interesting depth with guys like him and Diallo. With Gilgeous-Alexander out recently too, he's really picked things up. He's a highlight real kind of guy who goes to the basket very strong, but we're consistently seeing like 15 plus points a game. And as we record this, he's got 13 rebounds in his last 2. So he's somebody that is available out there in some leagues. And I think you have to give the kid a chance. Him and Diallo are making the most of their minutes.
Now, the final player on your waiver wire NBA list is probably the most available. 9% rostered currently. Jae'Sean Tate, Scott. He's your lottery ticket here at only a 9% rostership. Yeah,
Jae'Sean Tate, had a below 10-point game, and maybe that recently, maybe that cooled people a little bit off. But he's getting the opportunity to play, and we've seen a lot of good double-figure performances, some rebounding potential, etc. Jae'Sean Tate's available in a lot of leagues. He makes a nice plugger guard. Put him in your flex, etc. Great story. Undrafted kid who actually played in the NDL And nobody really expected anything, and I think people still aren't expecting anything fantasy basketball-wise. And, look at what the kid's done. Look at the numbers.
Yeah. No, it's been a solid season for him. And at 9%, only 9% rostered, somebody to certainly add. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today.
Wait.
King. Oh, wait.
Okay? Wait.
I'm waiting.
All right?
You got more.
I told you, right turns this week. NASCAR, the Daytona road course. Don't forget to go to rotoballer.com. Okay, we're going to have everything you need. We helped you. Now, if you played at Daytona and you got frustrated, don't, because Daytona is not a good example of what to expect in fantasy racing every week, because there's so many crazy wrecks. Things are going to return to normal. It's going to be easier to win. We're going to have all the coverage for you. I do a research station feature as part of our season pass for NASCAR. Enter King at checkout for a special discount. The hardest working man in fantasy sports, Justin Carter. Dustin Albino, a credentialed NASCAR analyst who's on that beat consistently. He's a real gearhead and a real purist. And our all-star producer right here on King of Pocket Aces, Sean Engel, is a 6-time DraftKings tournament winner and, does great premium stuff. Plus, we have an optimizer, research station.
Yep.
All under one roof. Our Uncle Leo can tell you that it works because he won a tournament. So make sure you get the Fantasy NASCAR Season Pass and check out rotoballer.com for everything at the Daytona Road Course this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, head over there, like we said at halftime. Head over to rotoballer.com. DFS, season-long football, baseball, basketball. Scott talked about NASCAR, MMA, esports, PGA. Tons of great stuff from Scott, Sean, myself, and the rest of the Rotoballer crew. Promo code KING, promo code ACES. Save yourself some money on any of those premium packages. Get the MLB draft guide there as well. So make sure you check it all out. And thanks for watching.
Yeah, Sean Engel is my absolute favorite fantasy analyst. That's no slight to you, Anthony.
There's maybe a little bit of bias there, but completely understandable, Scott, so don't you worry about that. But that being said, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Episode 2. We'll be back next week with episode 3. For the King, Scott Engel. Follow him on Twitter at Scott. What is it, Scott? Scott?
Oh, look at this.
Scott E. the King. There it is. I remember.
Oh, you looked it up. How about
No,
that?
I didn't. Scott E. the King on Twitter. Follow me at Aniano Fantasy. Guys, stay smart, stay safe, have a great week, and we'll see you right here next time. The King in Pocket Aces Fantasy Sports Show. Have a good one, folks.